participated fully and with an open heart and with an open mind. And that's my prayer for us today, is that all of us can hear this, whatever goes on today, whatever comes out of my mouth, whatever comes out of anybody else's mouth that gets a chance to speak, that if we can speak with an open mind and hear with an open heart, then we're all going to be better people as a result of leaving this room today and just having this conversation, right? And I also did the workshop in the South Atlanta area, but in transition from the first time I did it, it's grown a little bit and it's expanded some more. And it's not just about racism, even though that is a big thing, and we will get to that. There are some other areas that we discriminate in this fellowship, right, or that may be perceived as discrimination. So we're going to talk a little bit about those, and here we go. So in our Radius What is the NA program, it says anyone may join us regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion. My sponsor is real big on defining things, and he made me look up a lot of words when I was doing step work with him, even though I actually had to write down what I thought it meant and then what the dictionary said it meant. And I couldn't look it up on the internet. I had to look it up in a physical dictionary, which was a pain in my ass, but it worked, right? So I'm going to define a few words for us. And it says discrimination. Discrimination is the treatment or consideration of or making a distinction towards a person based on the group, class, or category to which that person is perceived to belong. And the main word that sticks out to me in that sentence is perceived, right? We make it up. It's when I perceive something, I'm making it up. It doesn't mean it's reality, doesn't mean that it can be mine, but it doesn't mean it is, you know. So that was interesting when I read that definition. Prejudice. Prejudice is an affective feeling towards a person or group member based solely on that person's group membership. It refers to a positive or negative evaluation of another person based on that person's perceived group membership. Perceived. Whew. I'm going to read this one more time. What is the NA program? Anyone may join us regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion. So in a moment, I'm going to ask for some volunteers, and the more you participate, the better this is going to be. The less time I spend talking, the more time you spend talking. It's going to be great. I'm also going to time whoever's talking because we got a limited amount of time, and if I give you the cut, I don't know. Hello? Okay. I don't know what. Tiffany, can you come fix this? So, I got a couple of volunteers that are going to be running microphones for me. So, if what we're talking about calls to you and you want to say something about it, raise your hand, and I'll give you the mic for a few minutes, and we'll hear what this thing's dying, man. I don't know why. Can you hear me now? Okay. Hello? All right. So we're going to talk about ageism. Ageism is a stereotype and discrimination against individuals or groups on the basis of their age. You know, I know when I first got here, I actually went and hung out in the AA because I didn't want to look at my drug problem, but the treatment center I was in was forcing me to go to meetings. But I heard in those meetings about something about, you spilled more than I drank or something like that, and what are you doing here so young? Because I was 25 and I was in a room full of old people. So I felt like I found a way not to fit in. Also, something got brought up at the last workshop that I did, that a lot of times in here we discriminate based on people's clean time, not about their age. You know, we either decide to put them on some kind of pedestal they don't belong on, or we say they haven't experienced what I've experienced, they don't know what the type of drugs are that I use or have come in from, so they can't help me, and then we shut ourselves off from the messages they could be carrying us. They could be the ones that bring us to life or keep us alive for another day. So if anybody has anything about ageism that they feel or have experienced in their recovery or their life, please raise your hand now. Give a couple people time. Here you go, over here on the right. You should have a mic over there. Where's my man at? Her.
Hey, I'm Gabby and I'm an addict. We just moved here from Puerto Rico. Boricua. And back in Puerto Rico, I got to NA when I was 18, about a couple of months after I graduated high school. And age was one of those things I can identify with because people were looking at me like, just came out of high school. And in Puerto Rico we say, tocar fondo, rock bottom, and my rock bottom was, at 18, and people were confused of how can somebody reach rock bottom at 18. And I've been clean ever since. I'm coming up in 11 years in October. And I went to a convention in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, and there were 14-year-old kids staying clean. And after that, I could see that age, it doesn't matter. We're all here. And it doesn't matter if you reach your bottom at 50 or 14. We're all here and we need help, and that's what matters. And one of those, of the first things that the literature helped me was identify, do not compare yourself. Because if I compared my age, I wouldn't be here. So that's my message. Thank you for hearing me.
Hello? Go ahead, man. All the way up.
I'm a recovering addict. My name is Chris.
Hey, Chris.
I kind of want to speak on ageism along the basis of clean time, where you brought up, because what I find, we always talk about the newcomer as the most important person in the room, but I find sometimes in my area that when a newcomer tries to speak, people will share after, kind of like, well, if you're new, you should shut your mouth, like kind of like old school Narcotics Anonymous. I don't have the exact, in the 12 step, and it works out why, this is not verbatim, but it talks about how nobody is above or beneath anybody else. And sometimes when a newcomer speaks and we make them feel shame, I feel it's a disgrace to Narcotics Anonymous. I feel like we all have something to offer. When I was new, you told me to shut up. I really didn't appreciate it. So, are we really about the newcomer? Are they really the most important person in the room? Because I can get on my hot horse sometimes too, like I know more than you, but guess what? That person will one day clean and sometimes teach me a lot more than the hypocrite with 20 years. And that's all I have to share.
We got one more in the back. That'll be the end on this particular issue.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm an addict.
Hey, Sarah.
My issue is with ageism too. I have been experiencing in my less than 8 years in recovery, and I mostly experienced this with my two sponsors. I feel intimidated at times if I have something to share based on my age, which is 65, I don't mind telling y'all, that if I have a suggestion, or they kind of put me down at times about things that I know, and if I try and explain to them, they treat me sometimes like, and not only my sponsors, but I work with them most of the time. Others who have a number of years in recovery, they really don't want to hear what you got to say. It intimidates you, and they also put you down. And I would like to see something change as far as that is concerned about how the newcomer, something like what Chris just shared, how we bridge that gap. You listen to me, I can take suggestions, and maybe there's something that I have to say that you can listen to, and that's where I have some issues at. Thank you.
Thank you. Sex-based discrimination. Sexual-based discrimination is discrimination, prejudice, or stereotyping on the basis of gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. I know I have some of my own stuff, but like I said, the less I talk, the more you talk, the better. So if anybody felt like they've been discriminated here on the basis of their gender, or their sexual orientation, or their preferences in life. So if you have, raise your hand. Need a mic over here.
Hey, first I want to thank God being here. And thank you, Jeremy, for putting this workshop on. It's really important.
Speak loud.
It's real important. Thank you very much. And I try to extend that to people a lot. And at first I didn't think that people was judging me because of my sexual preference. But as I stayed around here long enough, I realized they do. They hug you, but by the time you get out the door, they talk about you. You know, and I know what this program says. It says we don't care, you know, who you are with your sexual preference, but it's a lie. It's a lie because people do judge. They look at you crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know why. And I was just telling him when we used with whoever. We didn't care who you was. You could have been a dog, a bear, a beast. And then when we get a little clean time, we start to stereotype each other. And then you got people that all click together. Like, I don't want to be in a program where I got to hang around everybody that's gay and lesbian. I want to be a part of a fellowship of men and women who wants to stay clean. And yes, I have been judged. I don't like it, but I'm going to keep coming back. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Got one more in the back over there.
Good afternoon, Roselle G. from Atlanta. And I just want to say this is awesome. I didn't expect this, so thank you, Jeremy, and the rest of the committee. Sexual discrimination, I guess this kind of qualifies, but when another friend of mine who was female and I were chair and vice chair of our area on the west and right, we were, you know, as kind of leading the group, it was like a lot of guys had issues taking questions and guidance from women doing service work. And for a long time, we just couldn't figure out what it was. It was like whatever we talked about, it was like, no, you know. And eventually we found out that because we were two women who, and they used to call us the G girls, you know, and it was kind of funny, but in a way, just being female and in leadership service positions was kind of difficult. I don't know if any other females have ever encountered, but that to me reminded me that there is some discrimination still based on who you are and what your sexual is. Thank you.
Thank you. We had one more right there in front of her, but I know what stood out for me is like I heard when I came here, women do recover, right? That statement comes from somewhere, right? Because I guess at some point they were saying that women don't recover. There wouldn't be a need for that saying to be, right? So obviously looking around the room, that lie's dead, right? Go ahead, man.
I'm gonna add, my name is Felicia.
Hey,
they were able to share more openly. But we got a lot of stuff from a lot of the males in the area about we don't need that meeting. And it wasn't a meeting where we wouldn't allow men to come in, but they just said we don't need that meeting. You know, and it was like telling newer members not to come to the meeting. And also, I also experienced through working with other people, especially people that was gay, that felt like men couldn't help them because they would judge them. And I know a lot of times that was their feelings, not the recovering addict feelings, but they felt like they were being discriminated against because the man wouldn't help them because they were gay. And I know a lot of men in this fellowship that it doesn't matter what's your sexual identity, it would help you, but I guess some of them would, you know, and I was called and asked for help because of that, you know, and I think that, I don't care who it is, man, woman, I don't care if you're gay, what color, what country you come from, when my ass is on fire, I ask for help, and I give help when asked, you know, but I think we should be more open-minded about it because that was, you know, sometimes I'm the sickest person in the room, and I'm not a newcomer. So we need to be more mindful of how we treat people. Yeah, they told me to shut up, and that's what I needed to do. You know, it worked for me, but it don't work for everybody. That's all I have. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on from this topic. Religious-based discrimination. Religious discrimination is treating a person or group differently because of the beliefs they hold about their religion. And I know that it's not supposed to be a thing here, but it exists, right? Sometimes we get rubbed some kind of way when people say whom I choose to call God, or they pray to Jesus, or whatever it is they decide to do in the meeting about themselves. And so, even though we're not supposed to do that here, it becomes a reality for us. And sometimes we shut off the message that they have because they don't necessarily, they believe some type of way that doesn't jive with us, you know, or I have a sponsee that is an atheist. I don't understand it at all. You know, I struggle with how to help him because so much of my recovery is rooted in turning stuff over to God and praying and finding a way to connect to that higher power. And so not having that belief is, but he wants to stay clean, right? He wants to find a way to recover. And so we keep looking for stuff like the universe and molecules and atoms and all this stuff, right? It's scientific stuff he can't deny, you know? So anybody in here has experienced any kind of religious discrimination that feels called to talk? In the back. Peyton.
Hey y'all, I'm Peyton and I'm an addict. Wow, that's much louder than I anticipated. So, in my experience in my recovery, when I first came in, I was really uncomfortable about how much talk there was about God, and that God was Him in our steps in our literature, and that it seemed there was a distinct bias towards a particular religious perspective, which is reasonable considering our roots, right? The men who first started the 12 steps of recovery were based in the Oxford group, which was a religious-specific organization. But one of the reasons that it became easier for me to embrace the 12 steps and Narcotics Anonymous is that when I had tried to work with several sponsors, but the religious issue wasn't working. And I just decided, I was like, okay, higher power, whoever you are, I need a sponsor who I can work with. I need a sponsor who can relate to me and support me despite me not connecting with the dominant religion of our region. And the next woman who walked into this meeting was fan-freaking-tastic. You know, she was all pumped out and colorful hair and cussing a lot. And, you know, she said she went through the the basic text and scratched out, one name for a higher power and replaced it with another, and I was like, all right, that's where it's at for me. I appreciate that there are religions and that people are very attached to them and that they're a wonderful source of spirituality and support and identity. But whenever I can, I want to remind people that not everybody belongs to your religion. That there are many, many religions from around the world. And they may call their higher power God, or they may not. They may identify their higher power as male, or they may not. And that is something that I hope that our fellowship and our literature and our steps will work towards, is becoming more inclusive. Because we can use the term higher power, and we don't have to claim a gender for it. And I would really just be grateful for this opportunity to mention that. Jeremy, I'm really excited about this presentation you're doing, and I thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
My name is Jim, and I'm an addict. And I'm an atheist. And this program does work. I got clean July 20th of 1985. And at one time, Jeremy was my sponsor. And now he's still in with another atheist. That's great for Jeremy. This program works regardless of our beliefs in a higher power. Because I can tell you right now that we here together are greater than me by myself. That is it. So there is a power greater than me, and that is all of us here. And so it works no matter what your beliefs are.
Thank you, Jim. We got one more down here. One more.
My name's Hugh. I'm an addict.
Hey, Hugh.
Jeremy, thanks again for doing this. We need more of this. I am a Jewish person. I grew up in a Jewish family. I first experienced the 12-step program by going to the other fellowship, and I had a serious problem with the Lord's Prayer, because that's just not something that we do. I had a hard time with the whole God thing when I first got clean, and the group was my higher power for a long time. But I had grown to learn about God and accept God. I don't think God has a gender. I don't think God has a color or a sexual identity. I think God is God. And there's some things that we do here, like having programs on Friday nights and Saturday mornings, which is the Jewish Sabbath, that sometimes rubs me the wrong way. And I think we just need to be more aware of this, that we're a very diverse population, and we're all here for one reason, and we're here to get clean. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Go. Racism. Racism is the belief in the superiority of one race over another, which often results in discrimination and prejudice towards people based on their race or ethnicity. So, my wife said it was weird that I was doing this, or it was strange that I was the one that got kind of chose for this task. I was petrified when I was first asked to do it, because I'm a young Southern white male who probably has way more privilege than I ever know or experience or can recognize. And I got asked a couple of times at one of the various workshops, I think it was in the South Atlanta area, it's like, what makes you qualified to do this, right? And I said, absolutely nothing. You know, and that's why it's more about hearing what y'all have to say than hearing what I have to say, because I was raised in a very small town in South Georgia called Jessup. I see your hand in the back. We'll get to volunteers momentarily. Jessup, Georgia, which is part of the coastal area. Coastal represent. And there's some railroad tracks there, and it was very much these people on this side of the tracks and these people on this side of the tracks, right? And my mom, she came up here earlier and she shows she's in recovery now, but she wasn't always in recovery, so we wasn't always paying the bills, and we wasn't always living in the right neighborhood and stuff like that. And so I ended up being a white boy in the black neighborhood, and I was poor, right? So I was poor white trash, but I was over here in this neighborhood, so all kind of different ways I didn't belong. I didn't belong with the upper middle class of my own race. I didn't belong in the neighborhood I was living in, so I got mistreated and discriminated against for a multitude of reasons, right? And for all that reason, you know, I felt like I wasn't the one to be doing this, but I've learned a bunch of different stuff in recovery, and the main thing that I've learned is if I don't know how to do something, I ask for help, right? And being your RD, it's been fortunate that I've been able to expand my network to people outside of the Georgia region. And even though this topic is huge for our region, or can be in various places, we're not the only ones, right? That's what I got. I called different RDs from all over the country, and in every area, and everyone that I spoke to, you can't even take a video in here, Mom. They all have had the same experience. You know, there's various pockets of the regions that they reside in, or they serve in, that have this divide, and it's pervasive throughout the country. And like I said, I had this sponsee that I don't know how to help. You know, I've done all those things. I discriminate. Remember when I first got clean, I got sent to treatment, and my first night in treatment, I got put in the house, a turnaround, and I got put in the bed, in the bedroom with a gay man, right? And from where I'm from, the gay people are extremely flamboyant and out the box, you know, and over the top, and they don't care if you're straight. They'll tell you they want to get with you, and they're going to turn you out, and this and that, you know. And so I was very much shut off to that, you know. I was very much shut off to people about race, about their sexual identity, about their religions. You know, I grew up a specific one, and I thought that was the only way. And so I remember laying in that bed that first night and thinking, oh my God, this dude's going to try to rape me in the middle of the night. You know, because of course I was God's gift to women. I already knew that part, right, at that point. And most of the gay dudes I knew wanted to get with me too, so of course I thought I was the shit to them. But none of that happened, right? None of that happened. None of that was the reality for me. And so I'm not qualified at all to be up here. I feel like I've been changed as a result of doing this, right? And it was a result of thinking about it and talking about it, and that's what's going to happen for us tonight. You know, all of us are going to be just a little bit different when we leave here today. And the biggest thing that shifted for me, like I remember my daughter growing up, I got two 25-year-old sons and a 21-year-old daughter, and I rallied against her liking little brown boys. I hated it. I wished nothing more for her. I didn't want her to be a lesbian either, because I didn't want her to have some kind of difficult mistreatment in her life for that choice. I didn't want her to date a little brown boy because I didn't want her to get mistreated for that choice. I didn't want her babies to have a different life because they were mixed, so on and so forth. But really what it boiled down to was I was afraid of that. You know, I couched it into something big and made it about something cool, but it was really because I had some feelings in some type of way, and I saw color and she didn't, right? And she loves little brown boys, her jam, right? And she didn't let my stuff affect her, right? You know, like I did. My mom was never like that, so I'm gonna go ahead and count her out now. But all the people, most of the people in our hometown was very much malicious and separatist, and all this stuff. Rebel flags everywhere. So I grew up that way, and but I heard a man say yesterday something about when we work steps, we change, right? We get different. But lo and behold, my daughter got pregnant, and she had this baby, right? And this next slide is. Her name's Julia. She's mixed, and she's freaking awesome. I love her like no tomorrow, right? And I feel like it was God's gift for me in this program. Like I done a bunch of step work about this issue. I talked to a bunch of people in recovery about it. I always had conversations with people that had interracial, I knew it was coming, right? Interracial relationships to see how they dealt with it and stuff like that. But no matter how hard I tried, that piece in my heart never really got fixed, right? It was always a little thing. Whether I spoke it out loud or not, I got real good at keeping it down. You know, I got real good at acting like it didn't exist. But my initial thought was like always some bullshit, right? It was always a little bit of a judgment, a little bit of assassination of character, or whatever it was, you know. But then I looked at her, you know, and this is what I believed happened for me. Let me see if I can get this to play. Doing it now. Anyway, everybody's seen The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, right? This video is the shot of this happening when he finally realizes that Christmas is a thing that you can't take from anybody, you can't steal, it has to be inside of you, right? And his heart grows 3 sizes too big, right? And busts out of this box. And that's what I feel like my granddaughter did for me, right? It opened me up. It made my heart so much bigger. It dissolved some of those things. I wish I could tell you that it was all gone, but it's not. You know, it's just way better than it was. And that's what recovery is all about, right? So I got 4 grandkids. Yeah, 43, 4 grandkids. And this is them. This is Piper up here on the left, and Kane on the bottom left. Julia, of course, and my first grandson, Colton. I look there, I see no differences, right? And despite looking up here and seeing no differences, I can still turn right around to this podium and look out and see differences, even though I don't want to. You know, it's in there, you know. I want it to be gone, and I'm willing to work towards it, and I hope that all of us as a fellowship is willing to do that, right? So that's my personal story, and in the basic text, there's actually 21 personal stories that talk about that feeling of being discriminated against based off their color or their race. You know, everybody mentions it. So if anybody, we had the first man that his hand up in the back. I'm going to allow a little bit, I'm going to try to keep it to 2 or 3 minutes because I want to have more people talk than 3 like I did with the other ones because this is a hot button issue, and we're going to go for that for now.
Hey, my name's Joey, man. You know, I can identify. I'm from Jessup, Georgia.
Whoop, whoop.
Alright? And I came from Jessup, the cup house in the Red Cross. Where everybody was like broke down, beat up, black, at my home. I moved from there to Red Cross in Jessup, Georgia. When I got there, I had 5 years clean. But I did not go to that home group because I could identify only black people. So I was driving 40 miles back and forth to meet every day. My father said, man, you live in that town, go ahead and join the home group. When I pull up there, everybody had cows, wives, and kids. And I was homeless guy. So I got there. I mean, I ain't never been there. 23 years clean, and I ain't never been there. I say a lot because everybody, if I can, everybody can. But now, I got there and I share. I didn't have no recovery because I was black in my own mind. Right? Everybody doubted me is gone. I'm still the only black guy still to me. I'm the only old town in my home group, double digits, that come every night. Every night I'm there for a new one. And I was another step. I understand the program that I don't even think of it. I was supposed to be people. I thought the newcomers, male and female, if they're alive with you. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's all up to some of the programs that I have than me, whether I have racism or not. You have the right program. No matter what it says, race, creed, like a religion, that's how I live my fellowship. I don't discriminate. Now, I remember that home group, like a best home group in the world. Me and another addict mom is the dang old time in that group. And I told her I was glad she was there because, we have the old time. I'm it in my home group, old time. We are first to meet. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Down front.
Thanks, Jeremy, for an awesome presentation. And just two quick, I want to say, I don't believe there's a single one of our traditions that prohibits us from taking pictures at any meeting. I know that that's not what we're talking about. I just wanted to say that. And the other thing I want to say is that I'm David. I'm a recovering addict. I'm from Midtown. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I forgot, but I wanted to say this, that I am so happy and so excited to be a part of the evolution that's taking place, I believe, anyway, in the Georgia region. I have watched us grow from being a region that was made up of a lot of people who were prejudiced against each other based on skin color and race. I have watched us evolve to a region where I see more interaction between races. I am so proud of that. I'll give you some examples of what I mean. In 1988, Bryce Sullivan, who was the World Lit Chair in our former, that was back in the days when we had, the world had literature subcommittees, who was our former regional lit chair, said to me, David, we nominated you for RSRA. And I was like, cool, the day they called it RBA. And I was like, cool, and then 5 minutes later I said, Bryce, what's the RSRA? He said, don't worry about it, it's time that we integrate the Georgia region. I'm happy to report that I was the first African American to serve our region as a delegate. And that's something that I'm proud of. That happened in 1988. I remember when our region used to meet monthly, we used to rotate among areas. This was a long time ago. The West End area became an area because we had African Americans who wouldn't go to meetings anywhere other than on the west side of town. And the majority of the meetings were on the other side of town. And we knew we had to find a way to start meetings every day so they could have a place to go and they wouldn't stay clean. Or at least that's what we thought. When it was time for us to have the Georgia Regional meeting in the West End area, nobody showed up. They were afraid to come to that side of town, refused to come to that side of town. Just one other quick point. We've grown since then, I'm happy to say. I remember when MACNA was struggling. And I've heard people call MACNA the Black Convention and Brickman the White Convention. And I want to tell you that I've never been a part of that because when I got clean, there was no MACNA. We had a commitment, a responsibility to show up to the Georgia Regional Convention every year. That was part of the charge that our sponsors gave us, right? The first convention I came to was in Macon, 1985, when some white members asked Don Anderson, who just died a few weeks ago, to ask Sterling and Gary Jones not to hit on the white members. True story. They say, y'all can come to our conventions, but you can't talk to white people. That's a true story. But the final point I want to make is that I've watched this region change. And I'm so doggone proud that I have been a part of watching it when it was segregated and being a part of it coming together. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Hi, family. My name is Miss Lynn. I'm a great recovering addict. And I think one of the things that we also need to talk about is black on black racism. Okay, where I was discriminated against because I was a high yellow black man. I'm from New York originally. Okay, so you know New York is real diverse. Okay, and I found it real heartbreaking in the spiritual program to be discriminated against by my own sisters. And it was hard because I was raised by a woman that was real racist. She's from Statesboro, Georgia. And I brought home a Panamanian Chinese because I couldn't bring white boys home. And I thought that would be good enough. Needless to say, I got my ass beat and had to bleach the bathroom because he used it. So I'm very experienced in racism. But coming from my sisters here in Narcotics Anonymous, which is a spiritual program, okay, it hurt. It still hurts because it's still going on and we don't talk about it. Okay? You have dark black men supposed to be only attracted to light-skinned women. Or you have light-skinned women only supposed to be attracted to dark-skinned men. It's a bunch of bull, as we know, because we have so many white men that are gorgeous too. Okay? Matter of fact, my mother, the racist lady, dated my father, who was a British Columbian white man. Okay? And I'm like, how does she have 4 kids with men, but didn't like white men? So, I mean, being a mixed woman, understanding that in order for me to love me, through Narcotics Anonymous, I have to love everyone. Otherwise, I can't love me. That's what I teach my sponsees. That was what was taught to me, because I need everybody in Narcotics Anonymous. I have 11 grandkids that are crazy as all get out. They got all of our character defects and shortcomings. And they're very mixed. Very mixed. Okay, but the bottom line is love is the key to Narcotics Anonymous. I don't know how to live without loving. So it don't matter what religion I was. It doesn't matter what color I am. Without my sisters and brothers of every color, especially in the Georgia region. Right, Jeremy? We love each other. We cook for each other. I appreciate you, Tiffany. Okay, Joe and everybody else. When I got to Georgia, they showed me unconditional love in the Bible Belt of racism. I didn't know that until I got to my family in Statesboro, which is every color and race. They didn't know how to get up out the bed. Okay? 5 pounds you found in my family. In one place. I had never seen that before in my life. But all I know is Narcotics Anonymous is about love.
Thank you.
And my sisters that are gone, and my sisters that are like, cut it out. Love you.
I'm recovering that. My name is Mike. Shit's getting there a lot. I'm from Texas, Austin, Texas. Matter of fact. And we formed a group some 26 years ago. And I've been in service for 26 straight years. Never been without a commitment. I'm the group secretary right now. But we formed the group 26 years ago, went to the area meeting, and the first question we got asked, there was about 35 to 40 groups at the time, so it was about 35 to 40 GSRs in the meeting. And the first question they asked us was, is this going to be a black meeting? That's the true story. And the first GSR sitting next to me right here. And that was a shock to us. So we know. So from that day on, it's been like a big struggle because the big elephant in the room is always the racism. That's not saying nothing else is a problem, but for some reason, that's the hardest thing to get over. It's okay to come in with issues, but it's not okay to stay with your issues. Will we get a sponsor? If my sponsor is not on those issues, then he or she is a problem too. Because we all grow up a certain way. I had a sponsee brother, his family was in the KKK. And he was in my sponsee family, my sponsor sitting next to me right here. His dad was with the, I don't know, the man, dragon, whatever they call them people. Yeah, and but we talked about it openly, you know, and he hung out with us. And my whole point, I guess what I'm saying is, it's all about steps and sponsorship. And sometimes the sponsors is condoning the whole shit. Because there's no way we should have walked into an area, and that'd been the first question we asked, with 40 white people in the room and there's 2 black people, is that gonna be a black meeting? That should have never happened. But it did happen.
happening today, which is grateful, and I thank you for sharing your story. I've been on area, region, been elected in the World Board 2 times, so I've been in service a long time. And I had no issues about talking about things. You know what I'm saying? So we were talking earlier, for some reason, most areas are predominantly African American. Most regional conventions are predominantly white. That's not just here, that's everywhere. And a regional convention should look like the entire region. The program should look like the entire region. I don't think the committee is all Hispanic. The program should look like the entire region. And that should be a discussion in the meeting. Thank you for allowing me to share.
We got this young man right back here, and we had John had his hand. Raise your hand. Give him a mic right here. Go ahead, man.
Hello, everybody. My name is Boris, and I'm in Red.
Hey, Boris.
Thank you. I want to say that I never met any discrimination about who I am. I'm originally Ukrainian, and you can hear my accent, right? And I live in the USA for a while now, and I've been in the program for 3 years, but I never had any issues with about who I am or how I talk. There are some jokes about my accent, but we laugh on it together. It's not coming from bad spot. So, but I've been traveling for past few years, different countries and different states, and I've been in meetings where I don't understand the language of the meeting. Or in Chicago, I moved down from Chicago to Atlanta 2 weeks ago. So in Chicago, we have Russian speaking in a meeting, and sometimes people come to us not realizing that we speak Russian all the time, but we have to stick to that on the meeting, right? So sometimes we translate to them, sometimes when we don't have anybody to translate, they just switch to their drink some tea. But every time they share, they say, it doesn't matter what language you speak, I still feel that recovery spirit, and I still feel that recovery, hug each other, that helps. Also, so my message I want to give that if you go somewhere in a foreign country, you didn't have to go to meeting. Like me, I went to another country. I thought I was going to need meeting, but I needed it, and thanks God I went there. Even I didn't understand, I felt I belonged to it. So a few months ago, I came to Atlanta, and I attempted few meetings where I was only me, only one white person. But I didn't feel any discrimination. I felt loved, I got hugged, I felt I belonged to them. It was great. So I just want to share my respect and appreciation to our fellowship, and I wish all of us to keep it the same way. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Matt. You guys hear me? I don't want to blow it out by getting too close to the mic. My name's John. I'm an addict. I've heard an awful. I'm thrilled, Jeremy, that this is happening. This is a very important topic to me, and I think for the fellowship and the world we live in, period. I've heard a lot I can identify with. I think my upbringing, there's some similarities to what you shared. I was the poor white kid in a rich area with addiction in the household. I got kicked out of my first high school in Austin, Texas. I lived there for a while. Didn't get clean until I got clean in Marietta, Georgia. And I lived in Macon for a couple of years. I currently live in Long Island, New York. And there's quite a bit of separation in Long Island, New York, between the groups. And it bothers me. I was born in '59 in Houston, Texas. I guess what would be the end of the Jim Crow era, although that's bullshit because that stuff still goes on. You know that. In fourth grade, my best friend was black, and I remember getting kicked out of places because I was with him. So this has been something that's affected me very personally all my life. It's been a lot to me. But in a righteous anger is not something I do well with. It's a big character defect. So I've had to figure out how to live with the reality that I live in this culture. I live in a culture where things are divided. But it really does break my heart to see that it happens in Narcotics Anonymous. But I also think Narcotics Anonymous is a reflection of the world we live in. What I'm getting to here is that I have a personal responsibility. And I have to own that and know it. When I moved to Long Island, there was prejudice against me because I talked like a Southern person. And many people in the black community in Long Island assumed I was a racist. I was driving down here from the airport and I called my sponsor when I saw my first Confederate flag on the side of a trailer because it just bothers me. So thank you for doing this. And my own personal story, bring it up to the current. Within the last year and a half, I was surprised to understand that inside of myself, I still have. I have defects. I'm human. But I have a prejudice that I was not aware of. And when I became aware of this, I actually cried. And I'm crying now thinking about it. There's a subset of a group that I had a certain attitude towards, and I felt differently about and thought differently about. And I had to go to my home group and I had to raise my hand. I had to own this prejudice. That I felt differently, I talked differently, I acted differently around black women. And I had to talk about that, I had to take an inventory on it, and I need to work on it because I have a personal responsibility. And I found in my program that if I don't take care of my own personal responsibilities, I actually create my own problems. So I need to cut this short here. I could talk about this forever and ever, but that wouldn't be fair to anybody. But please, look inside yourself and work your program, and thank you for letting me share.
All right. You can bring the mic back up. So I know everybody, I've seen a lot of hands raised, and I appreciate everybody's willingness to participate because I'm going to ask you to do it right now. So all y'all are sitting at your little tables, and you're sitting with the people you like, and you're sitting with the people that validate who you are and that probably believe the same way you believe politically, and you share the same beliefs, share the same thoughts and feelings. So I'm going to ask everybody in here to stand up and find somebody that they perceive to be different from them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's from another gender, from another race, sexual orientation, whatever you want to call it, and have the next 5 minutes of each of you delivering to each other your personal experience with this issue. You got 5 minutes each. So each person take 5 minutes, please, and tell your story to another person. Hello. All right. If everybody can make their way back to their seats, we got just a few minutes before we need to close. Make your way back to your seats, please. Or at least be quiet for a moment. Good job. All right. All right, it's my turn to talk again. So I want you to notice how you felt in that moment when you were there eye to eye with somebody else and they were sharing their experience with you and you were delivering your experience to them. And I want you to take that with you the rest of the weekend and the rest of your time in recovery. And don't walk down the hall and pass up a group of people that you wouldn't normally hug or wouldn't normally acknowledge. You know, take the time to embrace this unity that's starting to foster here and embrace each other and make sure you introduce yourself to somebody that you quote unquote perceive to be different from you. You know, we were changing our perceptions. Just for today, I was trying to get a better perspective on my life through NA, right? So I appreciate all y'all for participating. I appreciate and love y'all for letting me do this.